If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
We are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend Khalid Muhammad, coming to us from Command 11 in Pakistan, and below him our good friend Randy Nance, combat injured Green Beret from the great state of Texas. Man, have we got an episode tonight for y'all. We're going to be discussing terrorist kill kits, weapons caches in your neighborhood and elsewhere. This is nothing new as far as the rest of the world is concerned, but we have a whole bunch of instances of this now happening in America. And as Clede mentioned last week, we actually have hospitals now with mosques in them that are locked, that nobody can go in and confirm or check on whatever's in there. It's pretty crazy stuff. So before we dive into all the craziness tonight, let's do the conflicted question. I got to get you all on that stage. All right. So for those of you not familiar with this, conflictedthegame.com, these are card games are in a post-apocalyptic scenario, I should say. And the questions always have some element of morality, hence the name Conflicted. We're going to answer this question ourselves at the end of tonight's broadcast. We want to see your answers in the live chat or the comments section down below. This podcast, like all of our podcasts, is actually going out to 9 different platforms. You and your best friend leave your families at the retreat to go investigate an early detection warning on the outskirts of your property. You have a negligent discharge and a .308 round goes through your friend's head, exploding it on exit. Wow. Do you tell your best friend's wife and kids that you killed him, or do you create a story about getting ambushed? Why do you choose the decision that you make? Holy crap. That's
a big one right there.
That's a tough one.
So you've been picking some doozies lately.
Yeah. My answer is I've never killed anybody with a negligent discharge, but I have had a couple ADs, believe it or not. So we've got, I want to say maybe 7 or 8 actually terrorist news stories that we're going to hit on before we get into the main topic as well. So first one here, we get you all back on the other screen. There we go. All right. So this is a cover from 1978. By the way, this guy's math isn't quite right, but this is a cover from 1978. The math puts these indoctrinated children at military age in 2025. Maybe the Ukrainian military. I mean, I don't know too many militaries who take 50-year-old guys essentially, but that's what we're talking about here. If those kids are 7 or 8 years old in 1978, they're over 50 years old. Anyway, Islam has never been about peace, nor has Palestine ever been about a 2-state solution. They've been granted chance after chance for decades to live in peace. October 7th was the last straw. And I just want to preface this. If you guys want to add anything to this particular story, by all means do so. But I want to say, just for the umpteenth time, for anybody who's new to our broadcast, I am a textbook libertarian, lowercase L, not capital L. Those guys are crazy. And I don't want anything to do with these wars in the Middle East. So I'm not in favor of the Israelites, and I'm not in favor of Hamas and the Palestine people. I just don't want anything to do with it. So Khalid, do you want to add anything to this just because it's in your backyard? Granted, though, you grew up here in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I was 78. I was still, I think 6, 7 years old when when it was 78. Look, the problem has always been that every time you talk about what goes on in the Muslim world, it's always a double game being played. Nobody is honest on this side of the world. Even the Muslims with the Muslims are not honest on this side of the world. So, Hamas and PLO, they went to war with each other. The Israelis went to war with Hamas and the PLO. Come on. if we would learn to, you know, just live within our borders and behave like human beings, everything would be fine. But
So-
this belief that we need to fight everybody, that just doesn't work.
So, Randy, do you believe a word that Khalid just said?
Well, you know, I was just thinking, man, I was 10, you know, at 78, 10 years old. I certainly, you know, I wanted to play with, I had guns. I actually had a 410 at that age. Not that I could get it myself, but I certainly wasn't getting to walk around with an AK like these kids.
No,
But
right.
you know, not, that's a good thing. I'm just saying relatively, you know, it's pretty crazy. I saw something earlier today where it talked about, you know, Islamic country and everywhere that they've gone in and changed the culture, you know, and it showed even all the middle, even Iran, Iraq, it went through all the countries, what their traditional dress looked like of a modern age, not centuries ago, before now that they're all in the burqas. And it just, you know, like we've been talking about, it started a long time ago. And this is just, if we look down the staircase, it go all the way back to these kids in 1978.
Well, number one, there's a big difference between kids with most likely full auto AKs there and kids here with a 410 shotgun for
That's
small
correct.
game hunting.
Yeah.
Not the same thing, obviously. The other part that I want to add was that Admiral Robert Harward is a personal friend. We met him through Don Mann. Don said, you know, most SEALs who are living today consider Bob the GOAT, the greatest of all time. His father was an admiral as well. And his father was actually posted to Tehran before the revolution. And Bob went to an American high school in Tehran. And he said, you know, prior to the Shah being overthrown, it was a very modern society. And, you know, a lot of very intelligent people that he worked with there, his father worked with, I should say, and he went to school with. So, yeah, they definitely didn't improve upon things. That's for sure. All right. Next one up. Well, I think the picture is pretty clear, so I'll end the thread here. Jordan's government is rerouting Palestinian refugees over to the United States through an NGO, which is a reboot of PCRF that has previously received Holy Land Foundation funding. So this is the debacle that Laura Loomer uncovered of this Heal Palestine group bringing people from Gaza over here to America. And I've seen a lot of people saying anybody who's against this is cold, heartless son of a bitch, blah, 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 blah. They're just backdooring the process here. Are we the only country in the world that has advanced medical care? Absolutely not. But my position on this is we got to stop letting people into our country that hate our country and hate us, or we're not going to have a country. I mean, and that's really the mission now at Survival Dispatch is, you know, we're on a crusade to save our nation and save our culture. Khalid, your thoughts on this latest NGO scam?
How many NGOs are we going to find that do this crap? I mean, you kill one, another one comes back. You kill one, another one comes up. You kill one, another one comes up. We need to stop the NGO system. Stop funding them. Let them come up with their own money and do whatever they want. Put oversight on them. Put all kinds of restrictions on them. But there's no way you're going to stop the NGOs because creating one is very easy. File a bunch of papers, you've got an NGO created.
So my thoughts are why they should be subject to the same rules as a 501c3, for example, where you have to disclose every penny that comes in and out of the organization, you know, and shine a light on this stuff. Randy, any thoughts before we move on?
Well, you know, geez, this is ridiculous. You know, I mean, how many are out there that are doing this kind of thing? Because we know the people that they're bringing in, they're not bringing them in here to assimilate folks. They can pretend that they are. They can say this is a humanitarian effort all they want to, but everybody knows there's a reason why no one brings Palestinians into your country. And, you know, to pretend like you don't know that and then just bring them over. This is what we're talking about, that, you know, parts of the federal government work on its own authority. And this is kind of the same deal. I have no doubt they're tied into all that network. It's just, you know, sooner or later, it seems like if NSA is so good, how can these people get away with all this stuff so easily?
Yeah, no kidding. Moving on to the next one here. And like I say, I think we've got 8 news items to cover before we dive into the main topic. U.S. nonprofit once tied to Hamas back in operation. I'm making a separate post to explain why this is so serious. So same NGO. Today, the arrival of Palestinian refugees in the United States made special media rounds, and it was discovered to be efforts of an organization called Heal Palestine. Heal Palestine is led by Steve Sosebee, the same individual who previously partnered with the now dismantled Holy Land Foundation, HLF, a U.S.-based charity founded by shocking the Muslim Brotherhood, shut down after being convicted of funneling millions of dollars to Hamas. Sosebee was part of HLF's fundraising operation. His role, transport injured Palestinian children to the U.S. for care, explicitly picked to elicit sympathy. HLF's role, handled donor outreach, press, and scheduling. The arrangement, HLF took 60% of the donations, Sosebee took 40%. This was a coordinated financial pipeline to Hamas, a partnership between a U.S. nonprofit and the Muslim Brotherhood's American fundraising arm. That was approximately 20 years ago, and Sosebee somehow avoided DOJ scrutiny in the Holy Land Foundation case. And now the optics of these Palestinian refugees arriving in the USA are identical. So who's getting the 60% this time? And we've already discussed this, so I'm going to move on to the next one, which is from Sarah. Great breakdown of how so many NGOs funnel money into terrorism while hiding behind victims as cover. They know the bleeding hearts will rally and fund it every single time, and the state is full of terrorist sympathizers who have no issues awarding visas. People should be asking, why aren't these injured taken to Jordan or the UAE? Both closer, both with world-class medical care. It's time we put protecting Americans first instead of letting everyone else take advantage of us. You guys are welcome to take a swing at that before we move on if you want. I'll take that as a no. Moving on. All right. If we fail to eliminate terrorism in Afghanistan, this camel will soon kneel at your doorstep too. We call again. Stand with us now before its threat reaches your home. Ahmad Sharifzad. How do you pronounce that?
Sharifzad.
Sharifzad. All right, thank you. In a world too often divided, we must recognize that the true battle transcends borders, uniting us in a shared struggle. Good versus evil. Your ethnicity, geographical location, religion, political affiliation, or wealth holds no weight in the fight against terrorism. Yet if you cherish your values, your liberty, your loved ones, and the safety of your community, you must stand resolute. Join hands with the people of all nation creeds and backgrounds in this universal fight for peace and freedom. Together, we can build a future where compassion triumphs over fear and unity prevails over division. Embrace this cause, for it is the heart of humanity's hope. Stand together and let peace be our victory. No mercy for terrorists. Khalid, I got to ask you for input on this one, seeing as it's your neighbor that you're.
I actually know the guy she quoted. Ahmed Sharifzad is a friend of mine. I know him quite well. He's a good kid. He is Tajik by birth. He is from Afghanistan. Okay. And he is fighting the same war we're fighting. I mean, he's still in university right now. He's still studying, but I mean, his love for Afghanistan is the same as your love for America. That you want peace, you want growth, you want a normal society again. And the problem we've got is that the people that have got control of Afghanistan are animals. There's no other way to describe them. They are animals. Yeah. They have no problem killing people. They have no problem, destroying people because they don't care. To them, death is just something that is something done. And that thing is coming to America. It's a part of it's already arrived. More is coming, because as long as Muslim Brotherhood exists, as long as the IRGC exists, as long as the Mullah regime in Iran exists, you're going to see this continue to spread and spread and spread and spread until we actually get serious. And by we, I mean the whole world. It is us against the terrorists. It is us against the terrorists. And we cannot let them win, because if you look at the map he's got there, I mean, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, they want to control that whole thing. They want that all to be part of the caliphate. And if that happens, it's just no way.
So I've had problems with this video all day, but I was able to go download it off the Twitter IMG server and played it. And it's exactly what you said. It takes the Arabic stuff here, and it just keeps adding country after country after country, so that every country there falls under, essentially the ISIS banner, for lack of a better term.
Well,
but
if you think about it, I mean, Afghanistan has now set a foothold. They've got Syria, they've got Afghanistan, they've got Iran. They've got their 3 feet in place. Now they can start spreading and moving and doing whatever they need to do to spread whatever they need to do. And unless we stop this will spread into Europe, into Russia, into everywhere.
So,
and this is not going to stop.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Turkey's a NATO member, but have pledged support for Jelani and have been sending him resources. No, or am I imagining that?
You are correct. You are correct. They've also threatened the Syrian Defense Forces, which is Pentagon backed.
Okay.
On Tom Barak's orders, the U.S. ambassador to Turkey has said that if the Syrian Defense Forces do not lay down their weapons and join Jelani's army, Turkey will be given permission to carry out a kinetic operation against them. This is a Pentagon-backed organization.
Yeah, the ambassador is a disgrace and embarrassment to our country, to be honest with you. So I didn't have this in the brief, but I want to pull it up anyway because both of you have mentioned how the threat's already here. Look at this picture. 40,000 people fill Dearborn streets for largest Urbane march in America. So what does ARBAEEN stand for, Khalid?
This is actually part of the Shia religion's Muharram ritual. Muharram was last month. It's the time when who they believe was the successor to the Holy Prophet ascended to the throne and was killed. So this is a time when and you've seen it. They take out chains and whips and they beat themselves and they let blood. This is all part of that. This is part of that.
Okay.
But that's also allowed in the U.S. streets. I mean, they're allowed to stand there and take chains and smack themselves on the back for hours at a time and spill their blood everywhere.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification on that. Like I say, it wasn't in the brief, but I thought it was pertinent as you all were talking. At Apex Guard HQ, so @ APEX Guard HQ, follow these guys. This is an exceptionally good post with regards to, the common everyday person who wants to get involved in civilian counter-terror. Now, I just want to add that there's a caveat to this that you all need to be aware of, and I'll let Khalid speak to it so that I don't speak out of turn. Everything in life, you decide what you want, you decide what you're willing to give up to get it. When you get involved in this kind of stuff, you're going to give up an element of security. You are going to be threatened, and very serious threats, and I'll let Khalid fill in the blanks from there as much as he wants to.
When you get involved in counter-terror, when you start talking about terrorism, especially the Islamic radical version of terrorism, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. They will find you. They will shut you up in some way, whether it be someone knocking on your door, someone standing out across the street from your house. I've had bullets left on my doorstep, literally bullets left on my doorstep. I have gotten death threats. Anyone who is professionally involved in this field, we made that decision that we would sacrifice our security to protect and inform the rest of the world. But a lot of people are getting into this and thinking, oh, well, I'm on the other side of the world. Nothing can get to me. Please stop thinking that.
So
they're everywhere.
Yeah, I want to add to this. I'm not going to name any names, but a whole bunch of people that many of you are familiar with have been doxxed multiple times, had death threats issued against them from people who've not been afraid to hide who they are and who they represent and what they're doing. There's also a flip side to this that I'll let Khalid speak to if he wants to, but you're not only, if you get involved in this stuff, you are not only going to draw attention from the bad guys, you're going to draw attention from the feds. Yeah. And so before you speak on that, Khalid, I want Randy just to rehash what he said last week. We've been asking this rhetorical question. How come the Trump admin and agencies are not paying heed to this very, very solid intel on 9/11 2.0? And why is that, Randy? You were the first one who came up with the idea.
Well, I think that there's a lot of these federal agencies that still have a lot of people in place that hate Trump, and I don't know, someone might even really hate this country too, because they kind of seem to go hand in hand today, doesn't it? And so people have to realize that the federal government has gotten to be so large. And of course, that's by design, because it's easier for everybody to be confused and them do whatever they want, just like where we are now. But all these federal agencies, just like now we know, right, that the CIA and the FBI were weaponized by the Obama administration and have been ever since. Well, how do you think that happens? You think those guys are going to play along with Trump? No, they didn't in the first term. So all these federal agencies that are supposed to be in charge of these things aren't doing their job. They're resisting, and anything that's going to hurt Trump, they're more than happy to allow happen or even facilitate happen. And that's what we seem to find, the situation we seem to find ourselves in right now.
So, Khalid, I'm going to let you comment on this instead of me. What kind of attention could be drawn by, let's say, the feds?
Well, first off, I want to say hi to all the feds and the intelligence guys that are watching. I mean, you're all there and you're all paying attention, and we're all in I know Command 11 is being monitored by at least 7 different intelligence agencies. So hello, hi, thank you for watching. Thank you for following. The problem with the feds is that you've got so many people that can make up so many things as a fake charge. You may not have spoken out of turn, you may not have said something wrong, but they will make something up and they will create a charge against you. I have been investigated by Pakistani intelligence. I have been investigated by US intelligence. I've been investigated by the FBI. I get death threats on a regular basis. Doesn't faze me because I've got nothing to hide. There's nothing you can charge me with that I've done wrong. And the problem that we have is these feds, because they need some kind of a cover to be able to throw on top and say, oh, well, we didn't know. So they harass the people that are talking. Maybe we'll shut you up. Maybe we'll shut you up. Maybe we'll shut you up. You're not going to shut us up.
I'm just going to add one point before we move on to this excellent list from Apex Guard. Khalid and I 100% have evidence of the feds monitoring survival dispatch news very, very closely. And I'll leave it at that. There's quite a bit more to it. It'll come out in time. All right, Apex Guard's suggestions. Want to get involved in civilian counterterror after everything we just mentioned? Memorize 10 key points and go into your community and start by briefing leaders within your immediate community. Number 1, full U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan August 30th, 2021, and abandoned the Afghani sources we cultivated over the last 20 years, losing 99% of U.S. human intelligence. So basically a screw up beyond all belief. Number 2, we began to cooperate with Taliban as counterterrorism partners. Now the U.S. only understands what is happening in Afghanistan through the lens the Taliban chooses to present to us. So the Taliban are protecting AQ, ISIS, ISKP, TTP, list goes on. And they're actually, Taliban are committing terrorist acts, dressing up as the other guys and say, well, it's not us. I mean, we're the good guys. It's those guys over there that are doing that stuff. Number 3, meanwhile, terrorist organizations from across the Middle East relocated to the Taliban-governed Afghanistan and used it to train, mastermind, and deploy jihadi fighters globally, including 1/3 of Hamas on October 7th. Number 4, over the past 3 years, a historic unification has taken place within the global jihadi movement, bringing together over 90 militant groups from both Sunni and Shia backgrounds, and they're creating battalions. Number 5, regardless, those abandoned Afghani assets continued to collect intelligence on the Taliban and reported the vast jihadi plotting, training, and deployment operations facilitated by Al-Qaeda. Number 6, not only did 1/3 of Hamas attackers utilize the Al-Qaeda jihadi pipelines, 10,000 attackers deployed to Syria and thousands deployed globally to Europe, US. October 7th was a test run. Number 7, the attack blueprint is waves of attacks designed to strike where Americans live, work, and play. They want to take what they felt on the battlefield in Afghanistan, and they want you to feel that in towns of America. So Mumbai 2008, Paris 2015. Number 8, the main plot involves an attack on the aviation industry meant to eclipse 9/11 in scale using small suicide explosives wrapped in silicon. to avoid alerting K9 with no metal inside, only detectable by millimeter wave scanners, which are unavailable in many American airports. We have a little bit more on that coming up. Lastly, what Al-Qaeda is doing is they actually want law enforcement to focus on ISIS lone wolf attacks. So when law enforcement spends 95% of their time focusing on lone wolf attacks, they're going to miss the Al-Qaeda coordinated attack on U.S. and European homelands. Number 10, in conclusion, when talking about jihad, it's important to keep in mind that this isn't a question of whether or not they will succeed, but to highlight their intentions and the fact that they've already got the ball rolling. Clete, I'm going to turn it over to you for comments on this mess.
Well, everything the Apex Guard put up is stuff we've talked about in every podcast we've done so far, and we've gone into intricate detail on each of these things. The problem is that people aren't listening. I mean, people still think that, well, no, this can't happen. It's fear mongering. Let's just look at today, yesterday and today. Yesterday, there was a shooting inside a hospital in Oklahoma. Guy opened fire outside and then went inside and shot 2 people inside the hospital. Today, Times Square was shut down because of a suspicious object put outside the NYPD substation. How many of these different incidents are going to happen before you start to wake up?
Stop and ruminate on that for a second for Khalid, for anybody who's new to our podcast. What are these activities in the grand scheme of things? How do they fit into the bad guys' SOPs, in other words?
Well, look, every time you do something like this, you are watching what happens. Where do people move? Where they move for safety and security? How do the first responders come in? More importantly, where do they come from? Which roads do they use? Which direction do they come from? How do they gather? What is the operating procedure once they get there? These are all things that someone is sitting upstairs in an office building, watching out the window and writing down, okay, this is where they moved to. This is what they did. This is how many vehicles came. This is how long it took for the bomb squad to arrive. This is how long it took for the first police car to arrive. All of this stuff goes into reworking the plan that they've already developed. And every time and I keep saying it, they are playing a boy who cried wolf strategy. A lot of hoaxes, a lot of fakes, a lot of hoaxes, a lot of fakes that the police, the law enforcement, your first responders also are going, oh, it's not real. And that's when they hit.
Yeah. Randy, do you want to add anything at all before we move on?
No, I think he pretty much covered it.
Fair enough. All right. So next one up here. Islamist in Canada. I don't consider myself Canadian. Canada is a racist colonialist project like Israel. They will be destroyed within 25 years. It's never been about Israel. It's about destroying Western civilization. 1 minute, 7 seconds.
And Canada is a white supremacist.
Oops. Just trying to hit the volume button.
And Canada is a white supremacist, colonial, racist project, as is Israel, as is the state of Israel. So I don't even consider myself to be a Canadian because this is indigenous land and this land is occupied. So the people who are here, whether they are settlers, we firstly need to educate ourselves about what has happened on this land and what is continuously happening in order for us to be able to understand what our government or this government is doing on abroad and on overseas.
This is the resistance that we're going to continue to see, and as a result, neighboring countries and those who are fighting in solidarity all around the world will also rise with the Palestinians, and we will see in the next 20 to 25 years the decline and the ultimate destruction of the illegal Zionist state. This is for certain. This is not a conspiracy theory. The Zionist regime cannot continue to continue this path as injustice, and all oppressors are doomed.
So, Khalid, I don't know if you've been to Canada at all, but I don't recognize Canada anymore because of this mess. No. I mean, it's completely unrecognizable.
I grew up in Michigan, so we used to go to Canada all the time. Because
the drinking age was 2 years younger.
Canada has its benefits. Canada has its benefits when you're growing up. Canada is now not Canada anymore. I saw a picture the other day that the leaders of these the leading political groups, the leading political parties in Canada are now all Indians. So what Canada are we talking about? I mean, this goes back to that hyphenation. When I say I'm Pakistani American, no, I'm not. I'm an American. Yes, I'm Pakistani by birth, but I'm an American because I live there. I grew up there. That's the language I speak. And I'm going to make a comment. I saw a comment roll through from someone named Penn Rules. It's like I'm in the room with them. That's what human intelligence is. We have somebody in the room with these guys. We know what they're saying. We know that's why our intelligence is so clean, because we actually hear exactly what they're saying and what they're planning. I wish I could tell you guys everything that we know, but a lot of this has to be kept for law enforcement and for intelligence agencies. But yeah, it may sound like I'm in the room with them. It's because I actually am. I do hear exactly what they're saying. And that's what human intelligence is about.
Yeah, exactly. Randy, your thoughts on Canada being on our northern border and doesn't look good, buddy.
Well, you know, if we there's a point I want to make here. So if we look back, you know, we talk about when the Muslim Brotherhood started and now all this stuff. And there, you know, when we were growing up, all of us, relatively the same time period, there were terrorist attacks around the world, but it wasn't like every day. They did happen, you know what I mean? And we had some big ones, you know, the Beirut and then even Oklahoma City, which was a domestic one. But regardless, it just wasn't all the time. But, you know, so my point here, hang in with me a second, is this is like a game, right? Whether it's any of our sports, whether it's football or baseball, throughout the entire time that you're actually playing in the game, the momentum goes back and forth generally, right? Sometimes a team just runs right over you and the momentum stays the same direction, but it goes back and forth, and we always follow momentum, and it usually tells you who's going to win the game at the end. And this is real world now. So if we take the jihad movement from back when it started up to September 11th, regardless of how that happened or played into it, doesn't matter. But then you look at the ramp up since, and we talk about the other day, it's now over 48,000 Islamic events, attacks. Those weren't lives, those were individual attacks. So it's more lives that were lost and injured and stuff like that. But the momentum is building. Have you noticed now all these other countries they've pretty much taken over? Let's look at Europe. Now let's look at Canada. I mean, I guess nobody wants Mexico, right? It must be absolutely worthless because there's no jihadi movement in Mexico except coming through using the cartels. But my point is, people have to realize this momentum is building to something. I've been telling people from at least 2012 that it was just inherent in the way that things were going, that at some point they were going to come for us. I've told many people this since then, and a lot of people then used to look at me like I was crazy, but look, I don't know if it's going to be 50 years, 100 years, 10 years. I don't really know, but it sure is looking like that now. And so I would say, again, people just look at the way the momentum's going and how this thing is building, and it's all around us. You think we're going to stay out of it? Come on.
So the best of the current intel that's been passed our way says this is going to happen before Ramadan, which is February 18th, 19th, 2026. Yeah. Number one. Number two, as Khalid's pointed out, previously in the past, when terrorist plots to attack us were unveiled, it stopped them. It delayed the attack because the cat was out of the bag. I don't think they give a crap anymore because they can see that we're clearly, you know, at an agency level, we're not paying attention. We are not prepared for any of this stuff whatsoever. Think about a city like Buffalo or Denver. Those are two really high cities on the list where they're a tier 2 city with only one level 1 trauma center. Imagine that ISIS starts hitting schools, offices, malls, etc., with vaporized sarin in the HVAC systems. And it's going to take a minute for somebody to clue into, holy crap, we're under attack, and figure out what actually killed people, because it's pretty fast with sarin. And then they're going to deploy all of their assets there. It's going to be just like 9/11 1.0, where one of the most famous quotes were, "Send everything you've got." And when that happens, now Al-Qaeda goes to the airport, a little bit different this time around. Instead of hijacking the planes in the air, they're going to hijack the planes on the ground. There's going to be very minimal defenses at those airports other than on-prem security, and they're going to fly them into buildings, and they're going to make a statement with that. That's AQ's whole thing. Klee can speak to that later if he wants, but AQ is all about the big shock and awe. ISIS is all about the smaller, more mobile sleeper cells like Mumbai was and Paris as well. So moving on to the next one here. This is in Michigan as well. It says it's Detroit. I'm going to guess it's probably Dearborn, just south of there. 21 seconds. So we've already beat that topic to death, and if we broadcast what was actually going through our minds, we probably would be pulled off pretty quickly. All right, so here's an interesting graphic. Every mosque in America is a paramilitary command post for a hostile political movement whose goal is to overthrow this nation and its laws. So there's half a dozen or more quotes on here. When you are called by the Muslim ruler for fighting, go forth immediately. Muhammad Hadith Bukhari. If the imam calls a group of people to arms, they are obliged to join his military forces. A Muslim is the brother of another Muslim, and all Muslims are brothers of one another and constitute one hand as against the non-Muslims. The believers are but a single brotherhood. All Muslims form a single nation. A Muslim has no nationality except his belief. Islam does not recognize geographical boundaries, nor does it acknowledge that racial and blood differences, considering all Muslims as one ummah, nation. Every inch of land inhabited by Muslims is their fatherland. Khalid, there was a video, I don't remember if we played it or if it was something you sent me, that basically had a map of the world, and it said that the radical Islamic terrorists, they look at America as the North American Islamic province.
Yep, I sent you that video. Yep.
Yeah, and then the South American Islamic province.
That just legend on Sean Ryan's show. That was legend on Sean Ryan's show.
Explain the mindset. They basically think the whole world's theirs, and they just need to reclaim the provinces. Is that the gist of it?
The idea behind radical Islam is that the whole world belongs to the Muslims, and it belongs to the radical version of Islam. Like previous episodes, I've said, if you're a Christian or a Jew, you have no problem with a Muslim because we consider you people of the book, because you follow Moses, you follow Abraham, you follow Jesus. We believe those to be prophets. I mean, at the end of time, when God decides that's it, the world is ending, God sends Jesus, not Muhammad, to save the world. That it says that in the Quran. But the problem is these radicals don't read the Quran. They get cherry-picked verses, and they're taught cherry-picked verses. So the idea that they have is that the whole world belongs to us, and we will kill the Jew, we will kill the Christian, we will kill the Hindu, we will kill everyone, or you will bow to Islam. One or the other. It's like the video we posted the other day of, I think it was today, about Hamas. Hamas put out a video today saying that we will chase every Jew, we will chase every Christian to every corner of the world, and you will either accept Islam or we will kill you. That's not what the religion teaches. I'm sorry. If you read the Quran, that's not what it teaches. But you've been taught that violence is the answer. And so, like for us, we believe, okay, if you believe violence is the answer, then we'll use violence against you, because that's what you see as the answer. And that's where these guys decide, well, okay, it's North America Islamic State. It's South America Islamic State. It's Europe Islamic State. It's Russia Islamic State. It's Middle East Islamic State. And it's Islamic State based on the values of the radicals, not the values of the Quran. That's where we have a problem ourselves. I mean, I'm a Muslim and I'm on their hit list because I talk against them.
So we get flooded with daily hate mail accusing us of being white supremacists, Nazis, pretty much everything you can imagine. So for the record, Khalid, just for the haters out there,
yeah,
who approached who here and brought you into the fold at Survival Dispatch?
You approached me. We had a telephone conversation. We said, yeah, let's do this.
So, I mean, I hate anybody telling me I suck at something because I'm super competitive, but apparently I suck at being a white supremacist and a Nazi. That's what I'm just saying. All right. So moving on from there, I've got a couple search pages on Grok and Chat GPT in particular, and there's a ton of information to cover in these. So we're going to ruminate on them for a minute. There's a reason that I'm broadcasting this. All of these AIs, with very few exceptions, Venice.ai would be one of the exceptions, is ultra woke. So half the time, if I go to any of these AIs, we have subscriptions to, I think, 10 now, and I ask it a question that could be considered politically incorrect or against the narrative, blah, 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 it'll just flat out refuse. I've shared screenshots before. They just say, yeah, we're not going to answer that question. It's outside of my programming. It's racist, whatever the case may be. So that's why I've got these up on screen. So I'm just going to hit the high points and then get Randy and Cleed's input on them. So at the top, and I know this is an eye test, I'll try to zoom in a little bit. So I just straight up said to Grok, can you find any evidence of terrorist groups having weapons caches in abandoned, empty homes, mosques, storage units, or anywhere else? So as you can see, it took 26 seconds to come back with, yes, there is extensive evidence from military reports, journalistic investigations, and official government assessments showing that various terrorist groups have weapons caches in abandoned or empty homes, mosques, storage units, civilian buildings, and other locations. This practice is often described as a tactic to exploit civilian infrastructure for protection, using as cover or human shields. Below, I'll outline key examples drawn from credible sources categorized by terrorist group and location for clarity. These are substantiated by eyewitness accounts, discovered materials, and official statements, though some reports note challenges in independently verifying every claim due to conflict zones, complexities, and everything that Grok and Chat GPT spit out. There's links provided, and I'll show you a couple of those as well. So Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, in Gaza and the West Bank. Hamas and PIJ have been repeatedly accused of storing weapons in civilian areas, including mosques, homes, schools, and hospitals, to deter attacks and maximize civilian casualties if targeted. And I'll show you some links and images on that in a minute. Then it goes down to discuss Hezbollah doing the same thing in Lebanon. Then it goes on to discuss ISIS doing it in Iraq and Syria. Then it goes on to talk about Al-Shabaab in Somalia doing this. And then it spit out this whole list of these other groups where this is happening. So here's one, MEK US fundraising linked, fundraising support of weapons caches groups, pleaded guilty to material support. And I'm going somewhere with this. There's Bangladesh, domestic U.S. extremists, Pennsylvania, pipe bombs and explosives, et cetera, et cetera. So these examples span U.S. State Department reports, IDF operations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I said to it, dig deeper into instances of this happening in America. It thought for 1 minute and 1 second. Yes, there are documented instances of terrorist or extremist groups and individuals in the United States hiding or stockpiling weapons caches in civilian locations such as homes, garages, hotel rooms, vehicles, and other sites. These cases predominantly involve domestic extremists. Now, the term domestic extremist no longer means what it meant just a few years ago. So, for example, the guy who was radicalized by, was the New Orleans guy radicalized by EQ or ISIS? ISIS. So he was an American. He was born in America. He was radicalized online. And then everybody knows what happened on January 1st in New Orleans. He's classified as a domestic extremist. We don't have to go back too many years. Domestic extremist meant, middle-aged white guy, but it's kind of convoluted now because they've thrown in the radical Islamic people who are American, and they're calling them domestic extremist terrorists, whatever. And of course, they always have to mention white supremacists and neo-Nazis, right? So ISIS, Al-Qaeda, some individuals have been inspired by foreign ideologies. Discoveries often occur during arrests for related plots or investigations into threats against government infrastructure or civilians. Below, I'll detail key examples from credible sources like FBI reports, court documents, and journalistic investigations focusing on post-2010 events where possible. Many involve homemade explosives, firearms, and ammunition, reflecting a pattern of stockpiling for potential attacks. Earlier in the conversation with Grok, I specified 2010 and later. I didn't want to go back and get into, well, Randy already mentioned it, Oklahoma, etc. So these are all essentially white guys, that they've been trying to claim are the number one threat to America. And they go back further in 2010, even though I said don't go back past 2010. Here's a chart on everything. And so the different types of things, right? So ARs, pipe bombs, rifles, ammo, 7 IEDs, guns, swords, bows and arrows, axes, guns, ammo, bomb materials. So then, and of course, see, I told it to say 2010 or newer, and it went back to Waco, 1993, which, by the way, I was having lunch with my Uncle Bob 10 minutes away from Mount Carmel when it was torched on the final day. And when we walked out of the restaurant, we could smell the burning flesh from 10 miles away. And of course, the cloud in the sky was absolutely brutal. But anyway, as you can see here, if you got a good set of eyes on you, narrow the focus to radical Islamic terrorists. Okay, so thought for 1 minute, 8 seconds. Yes, there are documented cases of radical Islamic terrorists and individuals inspired by jihadist ideology such as ISIS or Al-Qaeda, stockpiling weapons, explosives, or bomb-making materials in civilian locations within the United States, primarily in homes, apartments, vehicles, and storage units. These instances are less frequently and typically smaller in scale compared to international examples like Gaza and Iraq, likely due to U.S. law enforcement's proactive monitoring, stricter regulations on explosives, and the focus on lone actor or small cell operations rather than large-scale insurgencies. Mosques have been investigated for potential radicalization or as meeting points. Example, NYPD surveillance programs labeled some as terrorism enterprises, and we're going to get into a bunch of the NYPD stuff, by the way, for monitoring sermons and IMAMs without specific evidence around wrongdoing. Well, they found plenty of evidence. It's very well documented. Evidence comes from FBI investigations, court records, media reports, etc., etc. Here's some key instances. San Bernardino attack, of course, 2015 in California. And that was, I think there was husband and wife, Saeed Razan Farouk and Tashin Malik. They were inspired by ISIS. They had a significant cache in their home garage. It was their workshop essentially for assembling explosives. After the attack, they discovered 12 pipe bombs, tools for making additional IEDs, over 4,500 rounds of ammunition, and multiple firearms. The couple killed 14 people at a holiday party before being shot by police. New Orleans truck attack 2025. So that guy was from the Beaumont area on the east side of Houston. So not too far from New Orleans. And when they went and looked at his home, they found all kinds of stuff. There was more IEDs. They say he's a lone wolf, but the nature of the explosives as they were left around New Orleans that didn't go off, it suggests that there was probably other people involved. But when they went into his home, they found children's toys rigged as disguises for IEDs. And I got to ask you this, Khalid, the Quran was open to Surah 9:111. Do you think that's a reference to 9/11, or is it some other religious?
No, that's a reference that is taught in every radical madrasa that says that you should go out and kill in the name of God, in the name of Allah. But you need to read the context to understand what kind of conditions are required for that to be applicable.
Okay. So at the end of the day, his home was essentially a cache full of stuff. So then Boston Marathon bombing, 2013, Massachusetts. So you got the two brothers, self-radicalized Chechen immigrants inspired by Al-Qaeda and ISIS ideologies, assembled pressure cooker bombs in their Cambridge apartment using household items like fireworks for explosives, nails, and BBs as shrapnel. The apartment cache included additional IED components, firearms, and ammunition. They killed 3, injured over 260 in the bombing. Tamerlan and trained in Dagestan and consumed jihadist materials online. The apartment was a key assembly point. New York City subway plot, 2009, Colorado, and New York. An Afghan-American Al-Qaeda recruit and accomplices stored bomb-making chemicals, including hydrogen peroxide, from beauty supplies in a Denver area apartment and a Queens home. They planned suicide bombings on New York City subways using TATP explosives. Zazi drove cross-country with the materials hidden in his car. The plot was foiled by FBI surveillance. Zazi pleaded guilty to terrorism charges. World Trade Center bombing the first time, 1993, New Jersey. Ramzi Youssef, nephew of 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, in a cell linked to Al-Qaeda, rented a storage unit in Jersey City to mix 1,500 pounds of urea nitrate explosive for a truck bomb. They also used apartments for planning. The bomb detonated in the World Trade Center garage, killing 6, injuring over 1,000. This early example illustrates storage units as low-profile sites for scale prep. Times Square bombing. We're almost at the end of these, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Khalid, and then Randy. Times Square bombing attempt, 2010, Connecticut. Pakistani American trained by the Taliban loaded a car bomb with propane tanks, fertilizer, and gasoline, parking it in Times Square. His Bridgeport apartment contained additional components like fireworks for detonation and alarm clocks as timers. He fled but was arrested. He cited U.S. drone strikes as his motivation. Seattle military plot, 2011, Washington. Abu Khalil Abdul Latif, Joseph Anthony Davis, and Wali Mujahid, converts inspired by jihadist videos, plotted to attack a military processing center. They stored firearms and grenades in a Seattle storage unit and discussed using them for assault. Arrested by FBI sting after buying machine guns from an informant. Florida pipe bomb case, 2019. A man identified in reports as an Arab Muslim was arrested after a bomb squad found 24 pipe bombs, pistol powder, fused materials, 23 knives, 2 hatchets, nunchucks, 4 BB guns, and a mass-killing bomb-making book, DVDs in his home. While not explicitly linked to a jihadist group, the cache and materials suggest a potential terrorist intent. Case drew attention for its scale in a residential setting. So this is just some highlights from Grok on essentially radical Islamic caches here in America for all these different types of weapons. And it finishes by saying these align with FBI assessments that homegrown violent extremists, so HVEs, often radicalized online, pose a persistent threat. So again, we're back to, homegrown domestic terrorists. When most people hear that, they think middle-aged white guys. But again, now they've mixed in all these radical Islamic people. So I got to grab an oxygen tank and breathe after reading all that, Khalid. So I'm going to turn it over to you and Randy to speak for a bit. Take it away, Khalid.
Look, the problem has always been that when you turn your back on somebody and let them play by themselves, and that's the best way I can describe it, is when you let people start playing by themselves and not monitoring them in what they're doing, you're going to create a situation where it's going to end badly. All of the names that you took from the Grok read, all of them were known to the FBI. They were known to police officials. No one went in and searched the home before it was too late. And that's always been my question, is that when you've got somebody on a watch list, why don't you every month go in, knock on the door and say, hey, we've got a warrant. We're going to search the house and see what they're actually doing in there. Because as long as you let somebody operate and do whatever they want, they're going to build stuff, they're going to hide stuff, and you're not going to know what's there. And with the new wave of technology that we've got, radicalization is so much easier. It is so much. Before, you would have to go to a mosque. You would have to meet a radical imam. He would have to teach you. He'd have to plant that ideology in your head. Now you can sit at home on your laptop, watch a video, read a bunch of books, and in 6 weeks you become a radical. And you're looking for a target where you can carry out an attack. They also teach you how to build bombs online. There's videos for this. Mm-hmm. They teach you how to build a bomb, where to buy fertilizer, where to buy materials at, what kind of chemicals you need to get, how to mix them, how to cook them. It's become a complete do-it-yourself shop because of what ISIS has been able to do. The problem we have is that when the US government says that we have a watch list means you actually watch them. You don't just say, okay, I put your name on a list, and if something happens to him, well, we had him on a watch list. That's not.
He was on our radar.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Radar flashing red, and you went, it must be a mistake. Smack, hit the radar a couple of times and see if it comes back under control. That's not how you're going to stop terrorism, because terrorism today is literally a 6-week process. Literally a 6-week process. Take a normal person, start introducing him to the radicalization process. In 6 weeks, he's ready to carry out an attack. Normal human.
I read a report, Khalid, that I can't remember which agency it was, but they listed several examples. This is not the norm, but 3 weeks. 3 weeks from being the beginning of the radicalization process to actually doing the attack.
Because if you can get, the reason we keep saying disenfranchised, if you get someone who's disenfranchised, they can be motivated very quickly. The normal process, like if you take a normal person, it takes 6 weeks to get them radicalized. You get someone who's angry, you get someone who's upset about something that's happened to them, 3 weeks, they're ready to blow something up. They're ready to take a machete and start cutting people up.
It's crazy. So, Randy, I have 2 questions for you that are related. So, are there any warning signs that you think people should pay attention to, that might indicate a mosque is being used as a for paramilitary purposes, pardon me? And then let me find my next one here. Where'd my next one go? There we go. Are there any historical precedents for religious institutions being used as covers for paramilitary operations in America that you can think of? The only reason I'm asking is because I ran out of hours to do the research on that. I'm just curious if you have any ideas.
Well, I think that what was the first question you wanted to, if there was
warning signs that a mosque is
So
being used as a paramilitary base?
So, forgive me, Khalid, but if there's one there, I believe that it's happening. That's my belief just from my time in Iraq. You know what I mean? During my operational time, the 2 times that I was there, if there was a mosque, it was being used for that. Now, there's lots of reasons people could say that could happen. I think that this is what they do, but they also, as Khalid was talking about earlier, and we've mentioned, and I've mentioned on previous ones, one of the things they do is sit around and watch it, just like us. They're watching everything, and if they're planning an attack, or if they have an attack, or they have an IED out there, or whatever they're doing, there's people out there with cameras. They're videoing this stuff. Why? Because somebody's going to watch it later to get all the SOPs, how you reacted to everything. And, the warning signs to me would be more or less the video we showed last week or so, where, it showed them all out there. If there's all nothing but men there, I mean, religion is for everybody, and it's the whole family, certainly in America. So if you just have a bunch of men coming in and going out there, certainly bringing in, trunks or something, that kind of thing, then yes, I would. If they are very overly protective of it, which they already are to a degree, right? But if they don't want you nowhere around it, it's because they're probably hiding something. And again, I go back to my time there, all of them were. Now, they also knew, I guess my point I didn't finish a while ago, one of the things they knew is at some point the command came out and said, where we were not allowed to go enter mosque and do that kind of stuff as you normally would during military operations. So once they took that where we could not do that, where do you think the first thing they moved everything was? Into the mosque. And what do they have here in the United States, just like Christian churches? They have a lot of leeway from the government, right? And even your local governments and everything else. So it would be the perfect place to do that. And then, I don't know. I would just say another warning sign for me is how fervently some of these people are acting coming in and out of there. You know what I mean? If they're like really a believer, as we know, we've all seen Christians that way too, when they just get that fever. Islamic folks do as well. And so I would say that is also because normally, like Khalid says, when people follow most religions, it's fairly peaceful. But it's always the people that get radicalized or believe in another. And our problem is, for Islam, we look at, again, since we talked about all these terrorist attacks over the last 4 or 5 decades, they've learned a lot from it. And it's what has gotten them more notoriety, what has gotten them more money, supporters, and land? Violence. Them going to the violent part. So the political side of them that are using this, they're like anybody else that are legal. They don't care about the people under them that are getting wiped out, carrying out their little mission, as long as they get the end result go. And, you know, when it comes to disenfranchised, those people are very, not unstable, but they're at a very malleable moment, as Khalid pointed out, where what it really means is they have nothing, they have no prospects, right? They really think, as far as they can see, they don't have a great future ahead, and they have nothing to really live for. But all of a sudden, you give them that moment to where they can be great. It's just like giving them a football and saying you're going to be able to score and become a hero. You know, we look at Cooks. You know, they told that guy he was going to be a hero, and instead they killed him right there on the spot.
It's the old adage that the guy who has nothing to lose is a dangerous guy.
That's right. It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
And I think Andrew's got a good point here. Evening meetups of long durations, especially if it's all a bunch of men, you know, that could be considered suspicious for sure. So moving on to the next one here, I asked the exact same questions of Chat GPT, and you know, they're Grok and Chat GPT pretty much on the same footing as far as wokeness is concerned. I have subs to them for a whole bunch of reasons, but one of them is actually to see what nonsense they spit out so that we can, you know, correct it when somebody quotes it. So the answer, yes. So this is, you know, finding instances of all the things being used for caches. So well-documented cases inside the U.S. and abroad of terrorist groups and operatives stashing weapons, explosives, or precursor materials in storage units, houses, including abandoned, emptied mosques and other civilian sites. And there's a bunch of examples here, but let me give you something anecdotal. We live on the edge of town, small town USA, very old upper middle class established area. Anytime a home goes up for sale in here, it sells just like that. Many times it goes for over asking price. There have been 2 homes empty just a stone's throw away from us now for 3 years. And it's been really suspicious because there is some traffic occasionally going in and out of there. And somebody told me locally here, I just can't remember if it was PD or SO, but said that there are a lot of houses like that being used as stash houses for cartels and drugs. Yeah. But I've never seen anybody come and go from there who would fit that description. But it makes me wonder, just based on our neighborhood, nothing sits on the market here. So somebody owns those homes and they're keeping them unoccupied for a reason. Khalid, quick question before we dive into the Chat GPT stuff here. Is there any credence to the claim that some people have made that when 9/11 2.0 happens, that we are going to see door-to-door killings like happened on 7?
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Well, look, 9/11 2.0 is the wave starts from the buildings. You're going to have attacks that happen on schools, on shopping centers, on office buildings. And if the police force doesn't respond, they're going to turn towards residential areas, because that's where you create even more fear. You've got people out on the streets, people have left, elderly people are left at home, people who don't have kids that are left at home. You send another team into that area and they start hitting doors. It's like what you did in the military. You kick in a door, and if a jihadi popped out, you fired. For them, it's they kick in the door. If they see somebody, they fire. It's what we saw in Mumbai. When they took the Taj Mahal hotel, they went room to room.
Yeah.
Actually, it'll be a little easier, Khalid. You know what I mean? I in an instant had to identify whether this person had a weapon or not. Certainly by 2006, you just couldn't shoot somebody unarmed. So the jihadi, he's not going to have to. If somebody's there, that's all he needs to open fire.
Yep, that's all he's looking for. But there's somebody there, and he's going to fire. He's going to kill it, and he's going to move through. And the chances, what we know from listening in the camps, is they are going to have dead man switches on suicide vests.
Oh yeah.
So when you, for example, if the SO or the PD puts a bullet in a guy's head, when he hits that ground, he's going to detonate. I mean, this is the level of planning that they've gone to, is that they are going to shoot us. So when they shoot us, we should carry more, we should get more casualties than the process.
Yeah, so I just want to remind our audience, tonight's episode is number 9 of 12. Pardon me, on the road to 9/11 2.0, but we designed this 12-part series specifically so you can watch any episode or not. You can watch them whatever order you want. You don't have to watch one before you watch the next one, in other words. And our next series is going to be like that as well, which will kick off a week from tonight. It's going to be another 12-part series, and it's going to be survival and prepping before, during, and after 9/11 2.0. And I'll just mention something that we've covered numerous times over the years. Target hardening works. So imagine these bad guys are, walking through your neighborhood, and they see your home. It has nowhere to hide in the front yard. It has 2 doors on the front, like a decorative steel screen door with a man door behind it. You've got things like here in Florida, robolinis under the windows. So robolinis are these miserable little palms that have needles on them, full of poison this long. They will go through virtually anything. They're miserable. You've got cameras, you've got security sign stuff, blah, blah, blah. And your neighbor's home has none of that stuff. They're not going to come to your house. They're going to go to the easy targets. It's basic criminal behavior. But you can do a lot of things. You can't stop somebody from coming in your home no matter what. It's just how long it takes them to get in and how much time you can buy. So, for example, if you have a man door installed and you haven't changed the screws and the hinges, you have these little 3/4 or 1 inch screws holding the hinge to the jamb, and you need to take those out and put long 3.5 inch screws and get all the way back into the jack studs so it has some stability. Obviously, you need things like deadlocks. There's a company, I think it's called Doricade, DOORICADE, if memory serves me right. So they make these interesting bars that go behind your door. And I remember when we showed one, somebody said that wouldn't do anything. Well, yeah, it would. It would slow them down, especially if they don't know it's there, number one. Number two, that particular bar, the mounting brackets on either side, which are U-shaped, when you put the bar in, there's another clasp that goes across the top. And if somebody didn't know that clasp was there, they wouldn't know where to reach in and turn it. And they'd have to, potentially break a side light on both sides or break the glass out of the middle of the door. There's lots of things you can do to harden your home. And again, we're going to be covering those in depth in the next series that we cover. So let me give you a little bit of Chat GPT's answer here. So here are some sourced examples: storage units, storage spaces, 2025 U.S. in a federal terrorism case tied to the July 28th, 2025 New Orleans attack investigation. FBI agents say they found an IED, firearms, and suspect ID in the attacker's Houston storage unit. 1993 World Trade Center, we covered that. UK 2004 Al-Qaeda inspired plot. Police seized 600 kilograms of ammonia nitrate. Doing the math in my head, 1,320 pounds of ammonia nitrate kept in a rented storage space in West London. 5 men later convicted. Abandoned, empty homes and houses. There's a couple in Iraq mentioned. Mosques. There's Gaza, Fallujah, Lebanon mentioned. Anywhere else, you've got UN schools in Gaza, Cyprus and London, Paris attacks 2015. So then I asked the same question I asked Grok previously: dig deeper into the instances in the U.S., then create a table of the U.S. versus overseas. So U.S. verified instances. So New Orleans attack comes up once again. New York Stock Exchange plot. Suspect kept bomb-making sketches, timers, and circuit boards in a Florida storage unit, according to a federal affidavit summarized by Reuters. San Bernardino 2015, we've mentioned that. Boston Marathon 2013, we mentioned that. Noonday Texas cyanide case 2003. Sodium cyanide gas device and a large weapons cache in a storage facility. So here's the table. I won't read it again because I just did. And then it said, ChatGPT, do you want, I can expand on this stuff. And I said, okay, let's narrow the focus now to radical Islamic terrorists. So it thought for 56 seconds, got it narrowed down to radical Islamic terrorists. Here are well-documented U.S. cases where attackers or cells stored bomb parts, precursors, which are the chemicals precursors to making a bomb, or weapons in homes, apartments, or storage spaces than a compact U.S. versus overseas table. So a lot of the same ones I've already mentioned are on here. There's a New York City subway plot, though, from 2009. This guy followed AQ training, so Al-Qaeda, whenever you hear say AQ. And this was, he was cooking TATP, an explosive that he was going to bring to New York City. There's another one here in New York City, 2011, AQAP inspired lone actor assembling pipe bombs in his Manhattan apartment, following Inspire magazine guidance. Inspire is that AQ or ISIS? Their magazine, ISIS. Okay. ISIS. Yeah, the Ahmad Khan Rahimi, New York, New Jersey, 2016. Multiple live devices were planted. Additional IEDs were recovered in Elizabeth, New Jersey. But public filings emphasize devices in public locations to shoot up more than a large pre-positioned cache at a residence. So here's the chart that Chat GPT created from that, and that's the end of the Chat GPT stuff. Was there anything in there in particular that tweaked either one of you? I'm going to assume that means no.
We've seen all of this. I mean, again, this model's been repeated over and over and over and over, and still nobody's stopping it. You've got storage units that are rented, and nobody's coming to check on them, and nobody's bothering to break the lock and look inside.
Well, and it seems like we already know this, right? As I've told y'all before, one of the things that really struck me that still to this day confounds me, right? Once you have a little access to those, you know, because Chris, this is a whole nother network, right? To be on any of the secret and the top secret networks, it's a whole nother ball game. Then you can't just punch in, right? Everything is like we were talking about with the cells. It's decompartmentalized information for a reason. So the programs that you're read onto, for sure, you can get into those, and whatever's there is there. But there's also a lot of traffic of everything that's going on and all these operations and all this stuff we're collecting. It always astounded me the amount of intelligence that we collect that we seem to just do nothing about. Yeah. It is, I mean, it's volumes and volumes of it. And talking about tracking these guys, now, yes, over the last 20 years, there's been a lot added to it. But I'm telling you, you know, the Fox on my team was phenomenal. It was this guy, you know, was truly amazing. And the 8 months that we were there, basically, I was only there for 4, but basically the matrix this guy built out from all the intelligence that was coming in around the area, including what we were collecting, so that it could keep us busy because you have to have multiple sources. This matrix was unbelievable. You know what I mean? So I'm telling you, we were tracking Baghdadi in 06, long before he went on to ISIS and long before he got killed. We were tracking him in 06 and so many, many others. We have all kinds of intelligence on these folks. This is what they do. This storage thing we're talking about, it's what we've done. What are we going to do? We're going to go stash stuff and all around the area that we're going to actually do something. So when we need it. So anybody that, you know, when we talk about our intelligence agencies, then what are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing if you're not figuring this out? Or you just turn your back looking over here at something else so you can pretend like you don't see it and don't know what's going on. So I would say all of our federal agencies that do any type of investigation, what are y'all actually doing?
Just a quick note for those of you who are just starting to follow our podcast. Randy was a Green Beret. So when he says we and he's discussing kicking down doors, that it's in the context of being a Green Beret serving in the Middle East. Khalid, couple questions for you here. Number one, how do these terrorist groups finance the acquisition of, you know, weapons and, you know, storage units to store them? And the second one is, are there certain geographic areas that you know of in the U.S. that are particularly vulnerable to this, whether it be regulations or, you know, limited police, you know, head count, anything like that that you can think of?
Yeah, when it comes to financing, most of their money comes from drugs and kidnapping. That's done overseas. Like, for example, we've handled these cases here in Pakistan. Guy gets kidnapped in Karachi. Family is called. They're told that they have to give $500,000 in the next 3 hours, otherwise they're going to execute the guy. The money is not paid in Pakistan. It's sent to Indonesia. From Indonesia, it's sent to Saudi Arabia. From Saudi Arabia, it goes wherever it goes. Okay. So that's where your funding comes from. The second layer of funding is through what they're selling in drugs. Al-Qaeda has their own drugs network. Taliban has their own drugs network. The Haqqani network has their own drugs network. That generates a lot of money that sits right in the U.S. And they've got handlers that collect out those funds. 40% of it is sent back via the Hawala system to Afghanistan. The rest of it is distributed amongst jihadi groups inside of the U.S. to buy weapons, to buy storage places, to rent houses in someone else's name so that they have a place to stay. That's where your funding comes from. The new layer that's come up, and this is what we're seeing with the Muslim Brotherhood, is wherever there's a Muslim Brotherhood mosque, they've got this nice little box set up outside that as you come out to prayer, you drop money into that box. No one knows where that money goes to. No one knows where that money goes to. That money either ends up in Hamas's hands, Hezbollah's hands, Palestinian Islamic Jihad's hands, or ends up buying weapons for their own operations within the U.S. Because Hezbollah is spread out through the U.S. I mean, we know where all of their cells are. Now, when you talk about trouble areas in the U.S., Idaho, because you've got a lot of empty land out there where nobody asks questions. Same thing with North and South Dakota, the Arizona deserts. Denver is a great fundraising center. So is Los Angeles. So is New York. All three of them have Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah and Hamas organizing cells. So you're drawing a lot of money from there. When you move up into northern New York, where you have empty area and a lot of water, that makes for great training grounds and great places where you could hide things.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a training facility in upstate New York that we've known about for something like 20 years.
Yeah.
And
no one's touched.
Nobody's doing anything about it whatsoever. So moving on to the next one here. So media blackout, Muslim arrested with huge weapons arsenal destined for terror-linked Islamic compound in New York. 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
Are the inhabitants of a tiny Islamic outpost in New York jihadists in training, or are they just peacefully practicing their religion? Correspondent Rick Leventhal paid a visit to the Muslims of America's headquarters to see what he could find out.
Nestled on 70 quiet acres on a remote hillside in the western Catskills, a village called Islamburg is home to at least 100 Muslims, many of them converts.
How you doing?
I'm doing what you doing. All right.
Good. Can we talk to you for a second?
Nope.
We called ahead before making the 150-mile trip from New York City, but our interview requests were denied repeatedly.
We're here to do a story about Islamburg, and we're looking to talk to residents.
I hope you find some.
Islamburg is the headquarters of Muslims of the Americas, a group with at least half a dozen similar compounds across the country. It was founded by Pakistani Sheikh Mubarak Jilani, who federal authorities say also created Jamaat al-Fuqra, considered a terrorist group linked to domestic murders and bombings, including the 1993 attack on the World Trade Center. Jilani is the man former Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl was hoping to interview in Pakistan when he was kidnapped and later beheaded. About an hour after we arrived at the entrance to Islamburg, this man came out with a camera of his own.
What's your name, sir?
He taped silently for 15 minutes, then answered a few questions off camera, telling us he was born and raised in the U.S., converting to Islam in the Air Force, where he's an active reservist. He says Islamburg offers a better quality of life. Nothing sinister happens here. They live peacefully and get along with locals. We did find some suspicious folks in the local diner who wouldn't go on camera. This woman was happy to chat.
Good neighbors?
For me, yeah. I don't know about anybody else. I can't speak for anybody else, but for myself and my family, we've never had a problem.
I think we need to be very much on guard about every member of these compounds.
Author and Islam expert Robert Spencer offered no direct evidence of trouble, but plenty of concerns.
They are there in order to train for larger scale operations in the United States.
Yeah, crazy stuff. I don't know. Do y'all want to add anything to that? I don't have anything to add myself.
Well, it's just funny. When was this video? Brett Baer looked a little bit younger. That's not
He did. I want to say it was 2013 time frame because it hit the national news because the ACLU actually filed a couple lawsuits over this, saying that it was unjustified investigation of these people. But you know,
Well, I'm just saying,
we're simple here, right? Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck.
well, it's
Case.
funny that guy just said the same thing we did about him, right?
Mhm.
We need to look into it. And you're talking 2013, now 13 years ago. And I mean, it's just crazy that no one's done anything about it.
Yeah, I actually think this article that's in the brief is related to this, so it gives us a time frame. When a Danish newspaper published inflammatory cartoons of Prophet Muhammad in September 2005, Muslim communities around the world erupted in outrage. Violent mobs took to the streets in the Middle East. A Somali man even broke into a cartoonist's house in Denmark with an axe. In New York, thousands of miles away, it was a different story. At the Mahij al-Falah in Queens, one leader condemned the cartoons but said Muslims should not resort to violence. Speaking at the mosque in Brooklyn, another called on Muslims to speak out against the cartoons, but peacefully. And this article goes on to say that the police weren't justified in looking at these mosques, but they found problems in all of these mosques, whether it was giving money to AQ and ISIS, giving them some sort of material support, giving them a place to store their munitions, but Islamophobia, right?
I have no doubt if we actually went through all the records for all of those, many of them across the country would be guilty of those very same offenses.
Yep.
So this next one is absolutely mind-blowing. England is lost, and we're going to have to, at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to have to liberate England, France, and Canada in particular. But Germany as well. But the two that concern me the most are England and France. So, Pakistan has nuclear weapons, but they're old fission style warheads. They don't have ICBMs. They don't even have true MRBMs, medium range ballistic missiles. So they can take on their neighbors, but they can't take on the world. Whereas England has 8 nuclear subs armed with our Trident missiles. And those are armed with newer, what are they called again? Golly, I get the brain lock again. Randy, what's
ICBMs or come with the newer?
No, the newer type of nuclear warhead. It'll come to me in a second. But anyway, they can launch them from anywhere in the world from the subs. Thermonuclear warheads.
Okay.
Way beyond just.
That was more simple than I thought you were looking for.
Yeah, just fission nukes are what we used in Japan in World War II. When you get into thermonuclear, you're into a totally different world. So number one, Great Britain can launch thermonuclear warheads from those 8 subs on Trident missiles from us anywhere in the world. The French, it's even scarier. They have the full triad, so they can deliver thermonuclear warheads from air, land, and sea. They have our technology as well. You don't have to have a majority of people in England and France being Muslim to take over the government. And so the 37 largest cities in England right now have a Muslim mayor who was not born in England. So they're taking over those areas. This is why Mamdami's running in New York City, that Fareef or whatever his name is in Minneapolis is running there. It's the same playbook where, they come in at the municipal level, then they'll go to the state and the national level. So again, you don't have to have a majority, but all of a sudden you could have 2 countries with thermonuclear warheads under the control of radical Islamic people who hate our guts and can hit us anywhere. And I don't think they have any fear of, total global thermonuclear meltdown, unlike the Russians who do. But that's another story. So check this one out. This is crazy stuff, by the way. So this is why I said England's lost it. So UK, a Muslim police officer tells Muslim rioters to hide their weapons in the mosque so they're not arrested.
Oh.
يا أخي صيبة وجهك.
the police have been safeguarding the shipping sites. We're going all around town centre to look after the community, because it's the community that matters. It's the community that we're here for.
Le bateau attire les chouans.
From this mosque, this small group. If there's any rappers or anything like that, what I would do is discard them in the mosque. Leave them here.
So did you catch that? Just put them in the mosque. And then we don't have to worry about arresting you. I mean, it's insanity. Here's another one. New York, this was 2017. New York State Police sees huge weapon stockpile at Islamic compound. A huge weapon stockpile, including assault rifles, loaded handguns, flak jackets, and ammunition feeding devices, has been seized at a Muslim compound by New York State Police after an operation that a police major describes as tremendous blessing that may have prevented a large-scale tragedy. Longtime associate of U.S.-based organization Muslims of America has been arrested in New York following the discovery of the weapons cache that was intended for MOA's Islamberg headquarters. Ooh, didn't we just hear that they were just no problem? Good citizens, good neighbors, right?
Good neighbors.
Yeah. Ramadan Abdullah, 64, was arrested in Johnson City, New York, and is no stranger to law enforcement. Abdullah was previously arrested along with another man in 1977 after a botched robbery of a Brooklyn candy store ended in murder. At the time, police searched Abdullah's home and discovered enough explosive material to build 50 bombs. Even so, the charges against Abdullah were ultimately reduced. Imagine that. However, 40 years later, he's been arrested again. On May 31st, after attempting to steal 4 boxes of ammunition from a local Gander Mountain store, Abdullah was questioned by police about the purpose of the ammunition. His answers raised suspicion among police, who obtained a search warrant for a storage locker he was renting in the town of Union. During the search, the police discovered the following: 8 assault weapons. Aren't all weapons like assault weapons? Like, that's the whole purpose, right? Assault. 4 loaded handguns, 1 loaded shotgun, 2 rifles, 64 high-capacity ammunition feeding devices, flak jacket, thousands of rounds of ammunition, including 50 caliber armor-piercing rounds. Police searched other residences linked to Abdullah and found an additional loaded handgun and more high-capacity ammunition feeding devices. I think they're trying to say drum, including 38 caliber rounds. Ooh, 38 caliber rounds. The discovery sheds light on MOA's Islamberg headquarters. For over 2 decades, this cult-like group of Sharia law-following Muslims have lived quietly under the guidance of Pakistani Sheikh Syed Mubarak Ali Shah Jilani, a radical Muslim with known ties to another terrorist organization, JAF, responsible for a long list of terrorist activities around the world, including murders of rival religious figures in the United States. New York State Police Major Jim Barnes declined to confirm whether Abdullah was associated with terrorist groups, organizations. Of course he did, but noted that police believe Abdullah had traveled overseas. Wow. I mean, and nobody talks about this stuff. It's like on the last page of the local newspaper. It's not on the national news. I mean, just sweep it all under the carpet because September 11th never happened, right? One of Khalid's favorite sayings is it's September the 10th, 2001, every day these days.
Yep.
Which is definitely not a strike. So the next couple of images that I have here, I'll be honest with you, are outdated. So before somebody says they're outdated, I'm telling you that right now. Their tactics, as far as visibility for having these training camps and compounds, etc., have changed quite a bit in the past 7 or 8 years. They've gotten a lot better at disguising what they're up to. But this one here, secret U.S. terror camps revealed. Terrorist camps are now in locations across America ready for jihad. There are somewhere between 25 and 30 verified jihadist training camps in the United States. What's the number today, Khalid?
We're somewhere around 45, 50. They're proper jihadi training camps.
It's almost double. They're on private property, and the weapons they use to train with are legal. So all the FBI can do to monitor the situation, to keep tabs on them from afar. But these Islamic groups are training for guerrilla warfare with Americans on their own soil. It's a ticking time bomb. Many of these camps were established as early as 2012. From Conservative 101, out of outgoing President Barack Hussein Obama's many failed policies, his all-time single worst decision was not taking the threat of radical Islamic terrorism seriously. Instead, Obama promoted his childish "let's be friend" policy, the JV team, right? That led an uncountable amount of terrorists and future terrorists into USA. Now Americans are paying the price. By contrast, President Donald Trump has been front and center in the effort to change the U.S. policy towards terrorism. On Fox News, host Bill O'Reilly ran a segment that contained terrifying evidence of how terrorist camps have spread throughout the United States. So next one up. And again, we know that these maps are out of date. It's all that's really out there for open source intel, because these guys have gone underground. I'm not going to read everything on there, but just by virtue of seeing all the locations noted and the words on there, clearly there's a whole bunch of camps that they're using. Then there's this graphic, which kind of hits on states as opposed to just the centers. It has both in this one. And as you can see, it's pretty extensive. Khalid, do you want to comment on either of these maps before we move on?
Again, I come back to the same thing. I ask every Fed that's watching, what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing? You know these people exist. You know where their camps are. You know where their centers are. And you're sitting back and just letting them do what they want. There is no way that if you were actually doing your job, it's like Randy was saying, there are huge networks. I mean, if you come into the Command 11 offices and we show you the networks we have of the people we're tracking, it is point to point. How long was he here? How long was he here? How long was he here? Who's moving him? Who's his courier? Who's his financier? Yeah. And we're chasing these guys. These networks, and we're a private intelligence company. When you're the CIA, when you're DIA, when you are DNI, you guys have massive amounts of information to work with. And you're not chasing these guys.
And unlimited resources.
And
pretty much unlimited resources.
Just for our audience sake, when Khalid said DIA, that's the Defense Intelligence Agencies. So it's like the DOD's version of the CIA. Yep. Yes. Just so people are aware of what that actually is. So moving on to the next one. This one claims 35 jihadist training camps now operate inside U.S. to be used against veterans immediately before hostilities begin. Our government is openly preparing for civil unrest. Everyone knows local law enforcement, schools, and even coroners are being stuffed with weapons of war. Recently, Obama has been making inroads to take more control over our local police departments. He wants a national police force, and he got his 3 terms. Hopefully he doesn't get his 4th, but now he's buddied up with Ma'am Dammy, which is no surprise. But the DOD has been funding research at various universities to determine the dynamics, risk, and tipping points for large-scale civil unrest. One part of this study is aimed at determining who will take up arms against the government and who will not. Probably we are looking at some sort of personality profiling done with automated software aimed at social media accounts. If one wanted to stage a takeover of a nation, what better way to do it than to take out potential leaders of any resistance just before hostilities begin? So some real simple math for y'all out there. So we won our independence in 1776 with 3% of the population of the colonies. And all of the people that, the powers that be that are way up high, they know how fragile the system is. So when you combine active duty law enforcement, active duty military, national reserves, you come up with somewhere between 3.2 million people all combined. All right. Let's assume 50% of them stay with the bad guys and 50% go with the good guys. I think the number with the good guys would be way higher than that, but let's just say 50%. That's 1.5 million. Take 3% of our population, you're somewhere around another 12 million. So you've got 14 million people against 1.5 million people. And, Joe Biden used to say you need an F-15, not an AR-15 to beat the government. And that's just flat out not true. Have a look at what happened in Vietnam. North Vietnamese had 10 MiGs at the beginning of the war. They lost all 10 in the first week because their pilots were just that bad. And from there on, they had no Air Force. They had no heavy artillery. They had no Navy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They fought with AK-47s and crappy Chinese and Russian ammunition. How about Afghanistan? What did Afghanistan have? And, we shot ourselves in the foot again. But to suggest that small arms in numbers couldn't take on a larger force, that's just not proven. Now, we're not promoting that at all. It's the last thing that anybody wants to see. But if 3% of Americans got pissed off enough and they stood up to this type of tyranny, which thankfully we're not under right at this minute, it would break the system. Full stop. The numbers are what they are. So moving on to the next one, we're getting close to being in the home stretch here, guys. So documents, Muslims arrested in New Mexico compound were training children to carry out school shootings. It was reported that 11 children were rescued from an Islamic compound in New Mexico and that a Muslim man from Georgia and 4 other adults were arrested. Now we're learning that what one of the men was attempting to do with these children, he was attempting to brainwash and train these kids to carry out school shootings. The initial report was placed on social media by Taos County Sheriff's Department, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports on documents they obtained, which claims the adults were training these children to carry out mass shootings in schools. Documents claim, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's name, it's got like 20 syllables, and his co-defendants conducted weapons training at the camp where they were found Friday with 11 children in allegedly third world conditions. This guy is also wanted in Clayton County in a child abduction case. And it just essentially goes on to detail this compound and this sect, for lack of a better term, that was in Georgia, Alabama, and New Mexico. And their attack vector was to use children to attack schools. I mean, there's no end to the barbarity of these people to speak of. I'm going to whip through a couple pictures here just so people can see it, and then I'll get you all a comment. So these are pictures of weapons and explosives found in a mosque in Gaza. Next one up here, this is another mosque that was, being used to store weapons. And as you can see, I'm just doing a quick walkthrough here, and you can see the military in here. And there's all kinds of stuff in here. Like there's bomb making ingredients right there. There's guns, ammunition, all kinds of stuff. So pretty extensive. Next one, this is in southern Lebanon. You can see here, they've even got RPGs. And moving on to the next one, this is actually a fairly important one, because this is what Khalid spoke to earlier that everybody needs to be aware of. These are being called the undetectable suicide bomber vests, okay? So Al-Qaeda's assault on the aviation industry, meaning the upcoming 9/11 2.0, invisible suicide vests. There's no metal in them. Shrapnel in them is a hard plastic. The detonator is chemical, wrapped in silicon. Tested bombs hidden in fake pregnancy bumps. Made in a laboratory, chemicals and suicide vests, it should say, it looks like autocorrect got the guy there, have shelf life. Airport security, it goes through the magnetomometer, yeah. Millimeter wave scanner detects the bomb, but we don't have those in very many airports. They're likely going to start airports without millimeter wave scanners. Thwarting, interrogate criminals who are trafficking fentanyl. They're the ones moving them across the border. If you're at airports that don't have millimeter wave detector scanners, you can buy mobile units and use those, get people to take off as much as possible. Backscatter technology, we used to have those in the USA. A lot of people complain about them. Be honest with the public and say, these things are here for a reason. If you do your part, it'd be helpful. TSA is not taking it seriously because they saw the AQAP video and considered those bombs to be too big, so they didn't take the threat seriously. But that does not show the real bomb. The real bomb is much smaller and concealed. Smuggling. Sinaloa cartel responsible for some undetectable suicide vests moving across the southern border. Supplies for undetectable suicide vests moving through Chinese fentanyl pipelines. And that's from our friend Sarah Adams as well. Go to you first, Cleet, for your comments on these undetectable suicide bomber vests.
We have been hunting. I mean, Sarah's been hunting. We've been hunting, trying to find pictures of these bombs, because we want a picture of how these are put together. The chemical they're using, the way they're detonating, no one has a clue because no one's actually seen one. These are things you will be able to get through very easily in an airport, and no one will be able to find it. I mean, think about Richard Reed and the shoe bomber, and how easily he was able to get onto a plane with the bomb in his shoe. And if he had not screwed up, that would have been the first suicide bombing on a plane.
Yep.
This is much worse, because this is the level that you could the goal of Al Qaeda is playing at 30,000 feet, and a suicide bomber clacks off, and he blows that plane up at full altitude, at full speed, and there's no way to save anybody. I mean, when the plane is falling from 30,000 feet, you're not going to have any survivors left. And if you were to detonate over a city, how much mayhem would you cause because of that? The problem that we have, and it's like they said, TSA saw the video and said, "Oh, this is too big." It can't. Look, you have got to stop thinking that things cannot happen. These things are being planned out. They're being worked out. They are being fitted into what they want to do. There's a plan, and you don't have the playbook. This is the Super Bowl, and you don't have your opponent's playbook, and they're changing their playbook every single day based on how you react to certain things. Suicide bombers, we know. Assault weapons, we know. Attacks on cities, attacks on hospitals, we know. Attacks on schools, we know. But we don't know all the details yet because we haven't even seen them. Once we see them, then we can start talking about them. But for law enforcement to say, "Oh, no, it's too big, it's this, it's that," stop thinking that way.
The intel I've read says that, if you have a thin shirt over top of them, they're virtually undetectable. They're that thin. In my mind, I was thinking of something, maybe along the size of a 3A soft body panel, which is easily disguised under a shirt.
Well, even if not, Chris, I've mentioned, I don't know, it's been a little while back, but, I noticed going through all the airports, every one of them here in Dallas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is the same. And you go across the country, you see the same thing. A lot of these people that are pushing wheelchairs that are porters, a lot of them are cleaning planes. A lot of these are in hijabs and have headdress. These are Muslims that are taking these jobs. So they're across every airport. Why is that important? They have a whole lot of access. Like if you're cleaning the plane, you're back there when no one else is. And even back when the marshals could have a gun on there, they would come on next. But, maybe while they're cleaning, but my point is there's a lot of Muslims in all our airports across the country that have a lot of access to the planes and baggage and everything else.
I'm dying to see what these things are made from myself, because what kind of velocity would it take essentially with plastic to pierce the shell of an airplane? I mean, super high velocity. I get that, but what kind of plastic?
It would be the blast. It would be the concussion that could stretch the plane's fuselage, and you're done.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Leave it to the
very, very small bomb can do that. A very small bomb can take a plane down in that way because of that. Once it ruptures that fuselage or disrupts it in any way, it's over. And as Khalid said, most certainly your bigger jets, they're doing like 500, 550 miles an hour at 30, 35,000 feet. And it's, no one's going to survive that. And it's going to be raining down wherever it comes down.
Yep, I appreciate you pointing that out, Randy. So that's essentially the end of tonight's episode for Intel on 9/11 2.0. And there's a whole bunch of things we could get into as far as how you be proactive, how do you prep, but we're going to leave that for the next series so it's more cohesive. But I do want to thank Dale, the prolific Dale. so we these guys know what I'm talking
almost
about.
Every night, isn't it?
Well, every morning as well.
I think he's kind of like the rest of us and doesn't sleep. But if you go to survivaldispatch.news, that's our Substack. Sign up for free. You'll get our daily sit reps. You'll get our Saturday watch guide, which is a list of everything we publish for the week, because we know that some of the platforms like CommiTube aren't sending out notifications. We've been heavily suppressed and censored for a couple of years now on YouTube. But if you pay $7.99 a month or $75 a year, which you get 2.5 months for free, you get an invite to our private Signal chat. So it's a simple process. If you don't have Signal installed, put it on your phone. Send your phone number to support@survivaldispatch.com and we'll get an invite to you. On a busy day, there's 3,000 messages go through that private Signal chat. The information sharing, the intelligence sharing is really, really high
It's
volume.
Yeah.
High quality information being shared by people, some of whom are on our podcast, some of whom are not on our podcast, but a whole bunch of, Guardian followers as well. But in addition to that, if you pay, you also get our entire library of 37 emags, Survival Dispatch Insider emags. They sell for $10 a piece. That's $370 for free. You get enrolled in the SDN system, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. So if something happens, the fecal matter hits the oscillating device, you'll get a notification. You get early access every Tuesday and Thursday to JJ Morris's learning videos. And the bottom of our daily sit reps, we list what our sources are, and the sources are for all the paying people. But even if you just have a free account, you'll get a ton of value out of that. So this is from the prolific Dale. He's seeing some challenging though from Tim Smith. I got to tell you, is he's like this close to being tied up with Dale. So this is pretty big. Huge. Kash Patel drops a bomb. British court reveals Paul Ryan was the first one to receive a copy of Steele dossier back in 2016, and he hid this for years. And then this person goes on to say, I knew he was a snake. He hated Trump because he won. He knew Trump was not part of the establishment. Trump actually trying to do what's best for America, a new concept for the slimy political elites. Go to you first, Randy, and then Khalid, if you have any comments on this. What a scumbag, man.
Well, of course, none of those people wanted him in there. Why? Because they're all lying, stealing, cheating, and everything they can do under the sun. They have totally left the American citizen out of everything, and actually are defiant about, all of our benefits or what we've paid for. I mean, look at what these folks have done. Of course they did more. And now that we find out they've been taking and laundering even more money than we could even imagine, of course they did more in there. He's like the rest of them. There's a reason why Hillary Clinton said she would take down half of DC if she went. And the second point, why she said if he gets into office, we will all hang by our necks, because they know the treason they've committed. They know the crimes they've committed, and they know they deserve it. But as long as they can keep it hidden, or at least keep a small portion of the population and all of the media saying something else, I guess they figure they'll just ride it out.
Yeah, good point. Khalid, do you want to add to that?
I think you should take the Uni Party completely apart. It's not just Democrats. There are Republicans in there that are this. And I mean, Lindsey Graham, he hasn't seen a war he's not in love with. And I mean, all of them.
I want to know how much money he's filtered into his own account.
Oh, that's the question I've got. There was that story that came out the other day that he was taking Ukrainian money, running it through Latvia, and from Latvia it was running into his bank account. And I'm going, wow, that's what you're in office for, is to make money off of wars.
That's right.
It's just
he wouldn't be the first.
That entire swamp, the entire Fed, the entire establishment needs to be cleaned top to bottom, because you're not loyal to the people. You are not loyal to the people. The people are the hostage, and you're having the fun.
Yeah. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That I've seen reports on what you just mentioned, Khalid, saying that as much as $40 million has been shoveled into Lindsey Graham's accounts from that. So, all right, let's do the conflicted question to wrap this up. Man, this one is a doozy. Holy cow. So you and your best friend leave your families at the retreat to go investigate an early detection warning on the outskirts of your property. You have a negligent discharge, and a .308 round goes through your friend's head, exploding it on exit. Do you tell your best friend's wife and kids that you killed him, or do you create a story about getting ambushed? Why do you choose the decision that you make? And I'm just going to put this out right now because I learned this lesson years ago, and I love the way that the person put it in words. It was a buddy of mine, used car dealer, the most honest used car dealer I've ever seen in my life. When I first met him, there was a picture of him and an older gentleman, both of them with street glides on, behind his desk. And I said, "Is that your father?" And he said, "Yeah." And during the conversation, he said something to the effect, "Yeah, my dad taught me the most important lesson of all time. If you always tell the truth, it'll never get worse." And pretty wise words. So normally I don't answer these questions first, but I'm going to tell the truth and deal with the consequences from there.
Well, you really don't have a choice. I mean, you can't really say, well, we were ambushed, because the weapon the bore matches the weapon you have with you. It's just like digging a hole for yourself by saying, well, no, it was an ambush, or this happened or that happened. It's just, for every lie you have to tell 1,000 more lies on top of it.
Right.
It's just better to come right out and say, look, it was a mistake. This is what happened. I'm sorry.
Just comments in the chat again, and we're getting from all these different platforms we're broadcasting to. The conflicted questions purposely put you in a position where there's this element of morality. So yeah, anybody who's got half a brain isn't going to point a gun at anything that they're not willing to destroy. I mean, I train constantly with live fire, less lethal, and I'm very cognizant of all of them, making sure I don't flag anybody or anything. Even if I'm using a Mantis X, which is a laser, I'm very cognizant of that. So people who train a lot are probably not going to flag somebody, definitely not going to have an ND and take somebody out. But again, this is the conflicted morality of the questions. Randy, what's your call on this?
Well, this is a tough situation. I have to first say there is no way in hell this would happen if I was holding the gun. But regardless, it's what the question is. This is the game. It happened. Yeah, you're going to have to tell the truth here, because one, unless you are so far away, they probably can hear if there was a gunfight, and as we all know, well, all of us that have been in them, certainly in, in urban areas, you kind of get, I won't say used to it, you know what I mean? But people know what they hear. They know the enemy's weapons. They know what sides of the gunfight somewhat. And if they come across later, they're going to go to the same where he died. And they may figure, it, as we just mentioned, it's never a good policy to lie. It would be horrific to accidentally kill your best friend in this way. Unfortunately, it's happened to the military. People have been on guard and dudes messing around and accidentally shoot their buddy right in the face and kill him right there. It's happened in the Army. So it does happen. And, I guess my point is you'd have to tell the truth, because there's no way to overlie this. I mean, you're just, that ball would keep rolling and keep getting bigger until it blasted all over you. And then they find out you lied, they're liable to kill you.
Yeah.
There's a gazillion messages scrolling by right now from all the different platforms we're broadcasting to, but Dale, somebody in the audience, I forgive you. Forgive me. I can't remember your name.
Just don't go hunting with Dick Cheney.
Just went blowing by. But there's been a boat explosion in Baltimore. I'm going to pull it up right now. This was posted by the prolific Dale that we just mentioned. Breaking a cargo ship has exploded in the Baltimore Harbor in Chesapeake Bay, Maryland. 14 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty good blast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at there.
I'll probably let it play a second time since it's such a short video. And
I wonder what's on that.
Yeah, that's my question as well. Because it doesn't look like
something starts coming out right there.
Yep, it split the hull.
Yep.
So again, this is breaking news that we just got. I don't know what the source is. Whoever brought our attention to it, again, I apologize for forgetting your name. But thank you, Dale, for bringing this up. Dale catches all this stuff. I swear to God, the guy doesn't sleep. He's like the rest of us.
He's like the rest of us, yeah.
I'll sit down 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he's already got a dozen posts made by the time I get in front of my computer. And here it is at night. He's still going strong. So Tim Smith, step up your game, buddy. If you're going to take on Dale,
that's right.
You got to go next level stuff, I'll tell you. All right, so that's basically the end of tonight's show. John will be back tomorrow night, and he's got some more information on this debacle that Laura Loomer discovered of this NGO bringing people in from Gaza. And then the three of us plus Jeff MD will be back Wednesday night. Haven't confirmed with Mike Glover yet, but he'll probably be with us as well. And that'll be the 10th episode out of 12 in this series. And it's going to be on, let me get the topic back up here. I don't see it in my notes. It's going to be a good one. Let's just say on the topic of the road to 9/11 2.0. I don't want to waste any more anybody's time, but new closing video tonight between now and tomorrow night when John comes back on. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
God bless America.
God bless America.
Enjoy this new video.
Standing at the crossroads, patriots rise. Government in the shadows, stand your cool, stand your mind.
We will provide evidence that we can safely provide.
I'm never letting go as we make America great again. We reject your betraying. We want justice for justice. We want things that never to happen again. We and clean nights forever erase the stain. Generations run out, President Trump's mind. A leader brave enough to show us how to win, how to fight. Standing in the fire, stand the dark, we rise. We are never letting go as we make America great again. We reject your betraying. We want justice for justice. We want